So with Midnight, we get a new Delve companion, right? The Gregs of Accounting are going to be able to run around checking out Valeera Sanguinar, right? Much more appealing to the eye, I would say, than any kind of Bronzebeard running around with you. So what is with Valeera Sanguinar? Why is she doing Delves with us? What's her past really like? She's one of the hottest Blood Elf chicks in the game. We've all known this for a long, long time. But the one thing you don't want to do is let her get behind you. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But here it is, the messy lore of Valeera Sanguinar.
If you're a fan of Warcraft, you probably are familiar with this character, because Blizzard loves Valeera Sanguinar for some peculiar reason, and she's the only character who's featured more in Warcraft's promotional material.
I will say one thing about Valeera that Blizzard hasn't, held back on is this transmog, man. She has, Blizzard's kind of like, dumbed down some of the transmog, hid the tits a little bit, hid the ass a little bit. Not Valeera. She just still running around like a little hottie. And we like it.
And spin-offs than the actual universe itself. She's in some of the Burning Crusade's most iconic art. She's a playable character in Heroes of the Storm. She has an action figure you can buy, and you probably only know she exists if you played Hearthstone, where she says, "Watch your back." But in Warcraft's new expansion, Midnight, she will be the new Delve companion players fight alongside. So it's a good opportunity to go over the brief, yet confusing and ambiguous details of her lore.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting her to be our next Delve companion, but it'll be interesting. Now, she's a rogue by class. That's what she is. And, Bran used to be able to tank, so are we going to get rogue tanks? Hey, maybe. Maybe. Obviously, I'm expecting that she'll be able to tank as a rogue. Does that mean we could get rogue tanking? If we get rogue tanking before we get shaman tanks, I might lose my shit. I'm not going to lie. I might lose my shit. We'll see.
Like many Blood Elves, Valeera Sanguinar's family was murdered. But her family was murdered by bandits instead of zombies. So, that's fun and unique. Another thing that makes Valeera unique is that she's pretty young for an elf. A unique trait to have when the race can live for thousands and thousands of years. And in her youth, she'd learned the ways of the rogue.
Into the shadows.
Surviving the Scourge invasion of Kothalos and traveling around making her living stealing from others.
She just shadow melded out of there. Look, if you played vanilla WoW, pickpocketing could actually be like a viable way to get gold. Because back then, bronze even mattered in Classic. So, playing as a rogue and pickpocketing people could have actually been a thing that was actually viable.
Well, she was stealing from people until she got caught and was sent to Orgrimmar as a prisoner.
It wasn't.
While in prison, she kicked a whole lot of ass and was recognized for her combat prowess, and was forced to join a gladiatorial group with a night elf named Brol Bearmantle and Varian Wrynn. But he didn't know he was Varian Wrynn, King of Stormwind.
Yeah, back then he was Logarsh, right? This is the eyes, oh my god. Back then he was Logarsh. He had freaking crashed his ship in a battle, completely lost his memory, and basically had like a split personality disorder. And he was fighting as Logarsh. He completely forgot that he was the king of Stormwind.
Time because his memory was erased. This story is explained in a series of comic books simply called World of Warcraft, the comic. Most of this series is considered canon and mainly focuses on the story of Varian Wrynn returning to Stormwind and defeating the broodmother Onyxia, who has infiltrated the kingdom as Katrina Prestor. One of the interesting things about this series is that the story takes place during the events of the Burning Crusade. So, back in Classic WoW, when Alliance players discovered the true identity of Katrina Prestor and then slayed the Black Dragon in her lair, well, that's considered non-canon. What happens in this comic is what actually happens in the lore. I've already made a series of videos going over the lore in this comic before, but I'll be discussing Valeera's involvement as a supporting character. So Valeera, Brol, and Varian fought together as gladiators in the pits in Dire Maul and were owned by...
And they were absolute badasses, destroying orc after orc, whatever challenge that was thrown their way. We talk about like beasts and stuff being thrown into the arena with them. They were absolutely crushing it. Crushing it.
together as gladiators in the pits in Dire Maul and were owned by Rhaegar Earthfury. Valeera is then sold to another manager, but she later gets to meet back up with Varian and Broll, and they escape. They then go to Theramore, where Varian learns that he is the king of Stormwind, and that they need to head back to his kingdom. In the wetlands, a warlock assassin sent by Onyxia puts a curse on Valeera, called the Mark of Cathranetir, and the Blood Elf becomes a vessel for the spirit of a dreadlord that tries to possess her every so often.
I had no idea about this dreadlord lore. Oh, shit.
Despite this, Varian, Broll, and Valeera return to Stormwind and later kill Onyxia and
If Valeera has been able to stop a dreadlord from taking over her mind, she's pretty damn powerful mentally.
Valeera becomes the personal bodyguard to the king.
My
There she is.
loyalties are my own.
It's important to understand a core concept of Valeera's character is that she's not a part of the Horde and she is not a part of the Alliance. Her loyalties are her own, and the House of Rin has earned her trust. Which, like, sure, you can say you're faction neutral, but if you're helping the king of the Alliance, it's kind of giving you some faction bias, but okay, sure. And this character's filled with just, like, weird, tonally different contradictions of her character. Like, sure, she's faction
She's got a great model, man. She just does. She just does.
neutral, despite her outfit screaming Blood Elf Quel'Thalas loyalist, and her most iconic art is her attacking a Draenei. And let's not ignore that there's a demon inside of this woman. Shouldn't we be more concerned about this? Well,
No.
here's where our story gets weird. So
She deserves a cinematic. She might get some kind of, I mean, people have played through PTR testing and all that, but she might get some interesting lore stuff that comes out during the delves. Who knows? But she does deserve a cinematic, I agree. Kindai, you got to see how many points you have to enter into the giveaway. Type exclamation point points in the chat to see how many points you currently have. And then exclamation point enter space however many points you want to use.
Valeera is also a supporting character for another series of comics going over the story of Medan. I've also made a video covering his lore, but the weird thing about Medan is that he's one of the few characters in Warcraft that has been fully written out of the lore. He's the child of Garona and Medivh, the most powerful mage in all of Azeroth. And Medan is the ultimate power fantasy character who can control every type of magic, and at the end of the comic, he's empowered.
Lay waste to this
Bronze
realm.
Viking, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. He's the avatar. He is the avatar of WoW. He can control all magic, all elements, and everything, and he's been deleted. He doesn't exist.
Powered by a bunch of important
he's
lore
WoW
characters,
Jesus, basically.
and conjures a giant death laser to kill
Even more
Cho'Gall.
than Thrall.
We know that Medan has been written out of the lore because he's never been mentioned ever again after this comic book series, and in the Warcraft Chronicle books, he's in the index on the page 404, but is not discussed in the actual content of the book. Now, despite this, the series of comics explaining his lore is actually super important to Valeera as a character, because during this comic, Valeera goes to save Medan in Ahn'Qiraj with a powerful mage named Meryl Winterstorm, and they fight Cho'Gall. In order to match the ogre's power, Valeera has to give in to the demon within her. She fends off Cho'Gall, and they're forced to retreat after they rescue Medan, and they teleport away. Then the dreadlord within Valeera tries to harvest the power of Medan. Meryl then offers himself to be possessed by the dreadlord instead, and the demon's essence is transferred from Valeera to Meryl, and he renames himself to Meryl Fellstorm, and exiles himself like a massive cornball.
Badass.
But okay, if everything is rendered non-canon in this comic,
Does that mean the Dreadlord thing is all non-canon too? Like, has it ever been referenced? I don't think so. I don't think anything about Valeera Sanguinar being a freaking Dreadlord has ever been mentioned or possessed by a Dreadlord.
what actually happens to Valeera? Well, later in Legion, the Dreadlord and Meryl is defeated by player characters, so I guess
okay, there
that
you go.
part of the lore
It's
actually
over.
happened.
We killed it.
And for Valeera, well, her lore is told in the Hearthstone Book of Heroes campaign. This is a series of narrative PvE missions that tell the story of Hearthstone's hero characters. And in the story, Valeera did go to Ahn'Qiraj with Meryl, but in this version of the story, she does let the demon take control of her, and then they just flat out defeat Cho'Gall. Then the demon spirit is transferred to Meryl. So the same story kind of happens, just with Medan totally written out. but also Hearthstone is considered non-canon, so this is
Right.
most likely the current iteration of the story, but we can't really say that for certain. Okay, let's go back to talking about lore that we actually know is true.
Stealth is my middle name. Valeera Stealth Sanguinar. Thank the sun I didn't become a merchant or something.
Okay, so like I said,
that a
Valeera
real
is
voice
still
line?
working with King Varian Wrynn and serves as his advisor, bodyguard, and spy.
Yeah, where was Valeera at the Broken Shore? What the hell? Shitty bodyguard. Guy went to war and she didn't even show up. She could have, like, sapped him, Gul'dan, and helped us get back on the ship. Some bodyguard. Yeah, what the hell? Where was she? She's probably just looking hot. Just sitting at home looking hot, which I'm okay with.
And apparently she slept in during the whole Broken Shore
Is that real? I wonder if that's real. She just fell asleep on the ship, maybe.
thing. Okay, well, after he dies, she serves his son, Anduin. And then in Legion, we find out she does have some hobbies outside of serving House Wrynn, and is a part of the Uncrowned, a secret
pulled
society
him
of
out
rogues.
furious.
And we found out that she joined this order of rogues in her Book of Heroes story in Hearthstone. So I guess we can assume everything in that story is factual. I don't know.
Except it's
During Legion,
Hearthstone.
she helps players acquire the subtlety rogue artifact weapons and plays a role in the class campaign, but nothing about her story as a character is developed. She's just a familiar face who is a rogue. Then in Before the Storm, Battle for Azeroth, Shadows Rising, and the pre-patch for Shadowlands, she plays a very minor role as the person conveying information between the Horde and the Alliance.
She's a spy. I guess.
And she's playing Hearthstone in the War Within, and that's it.
Oh, Blizzard has a funny way of shelving characters. They really do. So she just played Hearthstone this entire expansion? I mean, I guess that was a good way to spend. Considering how weird the lore got, it's a good way to spend this expansion.
So after all of that, I'm left wondering, why Valeera? Why out of all of the characters is she Blizzard's choice to
For the
include in
Delve.
spin-offs like Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone? The
Also,
Heroes of
why for the
Hearthstone
Delve
are some of the
boss?
most iconic
Not the Delve boss, our Delve companion. Why is it her? Other than she's a blood elf.
characters in the series.
She's an elf,
They were
yeah.
either
I guess that's
main
where it
characters in Warcraft 3 or characters who have been built up over time in World of Warcraft. And then
She's
there's
hot.
Valeera, who's also there for some reason. Well, I think the reason why she's so featured is that despite the 30-year-plus legacy of the Warcraft universe, Blizzard has never really fully developed a rogue character for the Warcraft brand. The closest thing we have is,
Matthias Shaw.
Matthias Shaw,
Yeah.
leader of the SI7, but no one cares about him because he's a boring human and not a hot blood elf in a revealing outfit.
True.
I guess there's Vanessa Van Cleef, who is also a boring human, but is hot.
But she's hot,
But she's
yeah,
not
yeah.
featured nearly as much as Valeera. Okay, well, I guess there's also Lillian Voss,
Oh,
but
yeah.
she's not marketably hot.
Well, maybe she could have used to be hot. Maybe she used to be hot. I mean, she was alive at one point.
Depending on who you're asking. And there's Garona, but her lore is kind of a mess as well. All that is to say, I hope that we get some development for Valeera Sanguinar as a character in Midnight. And she isn't just a vaguely faction-neutral rogue who
Always
helps play.
use another
Brad
death
streaming, thank you for the sub. 20 months of priming. Jesus Christ. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that, man. Death Knight of our Scourge.
Those webs will summon Rubians. Don't stand in them.
But if the former Delph companion, Bran Bronzebeard, is anything to go by, that probably won't happen, and she'll just mention little quips about not standing in fire, and
True.
just like Bran Bronzebeard, maybe get naked, like Bran did in The War Within.
Oh, that'll be good.
That's still a weird thing that I'm not sure why that happened.
That'll be good, though. I'd rather see Valeera. Yeah, this is great. Okay, yeah, I mean, why Valeera? Why did Blizzard pick her? We still don't know. Did we have any questions answered by this video? Not really. But hey, she's hot. She's a blood elf. She's got sexy-ass transmog, and I think that's what matters at the end of the day. So a nice video overall. Interesting lore. We'll see if we get more lore development in Midnight. Nice video from Platinum WoW.